Okay, good evening once again, everyone, and I am here to continue what we started earlier. And let's talk about what about classes? Classes are the building block of English sentences and utterances. And it should be kept in mind that there are many potential differences between grammatical sentences in English and the utterances that English speakers produce. Yes, that's true. Uh, Basta, ano na siya? Clauses can be combined in various ways to make complex and compound sentences, and clause is equivalent to a sentence. The defining feature of a clause is that it must contain a predicator, the verbal element, or the verb and the subject, and usually other clause elements. We have subject, object, complement, and adverbial. So basically, there are five feature of clauses in here. These are the predicator or the verbal element, and this is the predicate, or we can say this is the verb or the verbal or the predicate or the predicator. And the four clause are the subject, object, complement, and adverbial. So basically, all in all, clauses and or clause is the building block of English sentences and utterances. Why? Because all of the sentences and utterances is the language itself that is composed by clauses, because clauses is the nearest combination of words that has meaning, or I mean it has, or that has a clear thought that could lead into uh, one successful meaning. For example, a word from word, it can create phrase, like we get prepositional phrase, noun phrase, adverb phrase, adjective phrase, and all phrases. And when we add phrases to phrases, or even word to phrases, or even words to words, we can actually create clauses. Either it is independent clause or dependent clause. But the point in here is when we have these clauses, we can actually have a sentence, because just like what we discussed earlier, a clause is equivalent to a sentence, especially when we have the independent clause that is a sentence one. So clauses is the basic component, or what you call the one the the powerhouse, since we have the foundation, the part of speeches, the words, from phoneme to morpheme to words to phrases. Then clause, what we have right now is clause. The clause can be more complex, and uh, especially when combined with another clause to another clause, and that's why we have utterances right now. So that's the point. What about classes? Classes is important. What about classes? So that's the point, class. So right now, before we talk about classes, let's go back again to the basic component why we need to have classes. Okay? And when we have classes, how do we identify what are the basic components that we need to learn when we have these classes? So first, we will be talking with these glossaries of terms. Okay, we have adjective, a word that modifies a noun. So beautiful, beautiful noun, beautiful girl, handsome man. That's all. You know the adjective, and I know that one. Next, the adverbial. So any structure that functions as an adverb that does a modifier of a verb, adjective, or other adverb. As long as it modifies the verb, adjective, or another adverb, it is an adverbial, or we can call that one adverbial phrase, all in all. Next is direct object. Direct object is a noun in the predicate following a transitive verb. So let's talk about transitive verb next time. Direct object names the objective, or the receiver of the verb's action. Um, Next, we can actually all of the words in here will be tackled next And next slides. So next is indirect object, a noun in the predicate following a transitive verb. It names the recipient of the direct object. Okay, so recipient's the direct object. Please be reminded of that. Next, uh, in the direct object and indirect, we mentioned transitive verb. So how about what is intransitive verb? Intransitive verb is an action verb that requires no complement. So requires no complement. What could that be? Next is linking verb, a verb that requires a subjective complement to be complete. Next noun phrase, a noun head word. For example, boy in the boy. So that is a noun phrase, the boy, and the head word is boy in the boy, and with all of its attendant pre. The pre are those the determiner, the article, the pronoun, the demonstrative, the relative pronoun, and the post noun modifiers. Next is the object complement, an adjective and or an adjective phrase or noun or a noun phrase that completes the idea of the verb and modifies or renames the direct object. The second to the last is subject complement, the nominal or adjectival that follows a linking verb, renaming or describing the subject. Nice. And lastly, transitive verb, the opposite of the intransitive, the transitive verb action. This is an action of verbs that require at least one complement or a direct object to be complete. So all of these, I know some of these are familiar and some of these are not, but right now, let's talk about these things. Okay, so am I sharing this one? Mm, okay, so right now, um, okay, let's go in this part. We got this part one, the sentence part one. This is the B pattern. This is B pattern type one. Let's look first at two B patterns as Colin names them. Below is the pattern, sentence pattern one, the pattern type one. We have slot one, the subject. Then slot 2, be verb. Slot 3 is the adverbial. So since it is an adverb, it will be the time or place. So the sentence in here is California is in the west. So basically the subject is California, be verb is adverbial. The adverbial in here is what we call the adverbial phrase. Okay, so adverbial is the whole um, after the verb predicate, just like that one. It starts with, though in here, last time, there are many confusions. Like in the West is started with it, I in. So in is a preposition. So sir, why this is not a prepositional phrase? Yes, this is a preposition, but the function of this phrase is an adverb because it talks about the place where the California located. So that would be an adverbial phrase. Okay, I hope you get it. So right now, um, the subject feels lot one. The subject of the sentence is a noun phrase that functions as the topic of the sentence. So what is the topic of the sentence? California. So please be reminded, though this is the basic, but in the pattern one, the California is the subject, and that is the topic of the sentence. For example, it includes he is. He is a pronoun, and is the be verb, though he is a pronoun, but he is the topic of the sentence. Okay, the kids. So the kids are. The kids are is the be verb in there. The kids is the noun phrase, but that is the subject. So that is the specific kids. The kids, not a kid. The kids. Next, swimming is. Though swimming could be like ing and swim is a verb, but this is a gerund form. So when we consider that one as a noun, we will make it as a subject. So swimming is the topic of the sentence. So uh, the be verb in there is. Then to live. To live is starts with a to. It is infinitive. So to live, that is the subject, and is the be verb. Okay, so a be verb feels lot too, as you can see. A be verb is any verb form of be, such as is, are, was, or will be. Please be reminded of that. Finally, an adverbial feels lot three, right? An adverbial is a structure. It could be a word or a phrase or a clause. It really depends on the sentence that modifies a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. Okay? It can describe the when, where, why, or how of the word it modifies. In the sentence pattern, the main adverbial always modifies the V verb. Okay? So again, where is the California located? It is as the V verb. It is in the West US. So we are modifying the be verb where the subject is located. So that is the adverbial. And please be reminded, when we use be verb, we should consider the adverbial nature of uh, the 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 latter part. So for example, if our after the be verb, if our phrase or clause or word is like when or where or why or how, if it if if that word modifies the be verb, I mean yes, the be verb, so that will be an adverbial, especially when it talks about time or place. Okay, and always be reminded the main adverbial, the that one, the slot tree, all of these modifies the be verb is, are, was, or will be. Example include, for example, mm, um, your performance will be next month. Okay. So your performance is the subject, will be is the be verb, and next month is the adverbial because the performance is the subject, will be is the be verb, and next month is adverbial telling when, next month. Okay. Next, your teacher. Record ba ko? Okay. Nice day. Yeah, sinagsulti lang ko, wala ko naka-record. Your teacher mm, is on the campus. So, kani, sa'yo na kaayo, place lang yapon, nado siya sa campus. So, your teacher is the subject, is the be verb, and on the campus is adverbial, telling when. When. So, when, I mean, where on this campus. Next, for a short respite, for a short respite was Michael's only hope. Though this sentence is inverted, normally it would read as Michael's only hope was for a short respite. Though wala na ako gisulat class. Sorry. Wala ko siya gisulat pero dana siya. Ang kanina lang, Michael's only hope was for a short respite. So, ang adverbial dira is for a short respite. Was ang yang be verb and ang subject is Michael's only hope. Okay? So that ends our sentence pattern 1. And please always be reminded that when we talk about a time or place or answering how, what, where, or why, we can include, I mean, we can conclude that it is an adverbial and we are using the be verb to modify, adverbial to modify the be verb or the verb that we are using. Next, sentence pattern 2, the be patterns type 2. The second sentence pattern from Collins rhetorical grammar involves be verbs again. This time, instead of adverbials, we will learn about subject modifiers or subject complements. Explain or rename what the subject is. So it is like it will just explain what is our subject. So since mag-complement man siya, mubalik lang gyapon siya sa subject. Tungod gani, subject complement ang tawag niya tungod kay ang gi-complement niya kay ang subject complement or ang ginapasabot niya ani is ang subject. For example, Michael was an Olympic gold medalist. So Michael is a subject, though we are still using the be verb. Do not be kind of confused with that. But the point in here in the be verb pattern number 2 is the subject complement will go back to the subject. Who is Michael? Michael is an Olympic gold medalist. So an Olympic gold medalist is started with an, and that is an article. So just like what we went last time, since it started with an article, it will become a noun phrase. So all in all, though this is a phrase, and this is always this though this is praise, but all in all, this is a subject complement that will go back to our subject to explain or rename or like modify what the subject is. Number 2, the dog is being silly. So the dog is being silly. We have the dog is subject, be verb is being, and subject complement silly. And right now, though, whatever it is, whatever part of speech it is, when we use right now, as long as it will give a complementation, like it will give a modification, explanation, or rename to the subject, it will always be the subject complement. Right now, in here, that dog is being silly. Silly is mm, an adjective in a function, right? It is written in here because it will go back to the subject, the dog. Okay, so that would be the pattern number 2. Okay, and I will give you some examples. For example, will you be my lab partner? So, though this is a question, um, wait a minute. Mm, okay, feel na mali akong sentence. Kajut lang ha. Kanina lang. Mr. Jethro is my teacher. So, Mr. Jethro is the subject. Is the be verb. My teacher is a noun phrase, and that is a subject complement. Okay, next is Joshua isn't being an obedient child. Mhm. So Joshua is the subject. Isn't is not. I mean is the or is not being. The v is the be verb in there. Then um I mean is ang be verb dira then not being an obedient child is the subject complement siya, pero ang not is daw not ano ta? Not not being an obedient child, not not being an obedient child. Joshua is not being an obedient child. Joshua's subject is a be verb. Not being an obedient child is subject complement. Yes, still gyapon siya. Subject complement gyapon siya, though it is negative. Okay? So I hope everyone got the subject complement. Tugod kay nabalik na last time. Let's go with the pattern number 3, the linking verb pattern. Okay, so the third sentence pattern from Martha Collins' book Rhetorical Grammar uses linking verbs other than be and subject complement. Remember that subject complements explain or rename what the subject is, okay? So earlier, um, we used the be verb, but right now we are using the linking verb. And what differs them is how we uh, how we explain the subject using the subject complement through linking verb. Okay, so for example, the lake appears calm. So the lake is a subject, linking verb is appears, and subject complement is calm. Next, Kara, subject, linking verb became. Then a teacher. A teacher is a noun phrase because it starts with a, an article, and a teacher is a noun. So the explanation here is after the sentence subject, a linking verb fills lot two. That's the middle. A linking verb is typically a verb of the senses. So about siya sa senses. Like dili man action good ang appears. Like ang appears, hala feel na ko, ana maguna good. Like murag inana siya. The lake murag kalma ang lake karon. The lake appears calm. Ana siya. So it is not an action but it is a sense. Kara became a teacher. Became is not an action. Okay? Though other people consider it as an action because I actually became like from and result to. But in here, Kara became a teacher is something uh like uh, became Kara became a teacher something. This is a sense because according to Colin, the author of this one, this uh, the linking verb usually functions as to look for something. So Kara became what? A teacher. Became is not like a direct verb action, like kanang verb good na verb like I became a Superman. So dili siya no mudritso like I became Superman like kana gumurag kanang ako na himong Superman dito. So like maybe there is a kanang something magical happened or dili makita and happened why it became. So became is not that a direct action word, but it is like a sense verb that provokes something. Okay, for example, actually linking verbs are something like taste, smell, feel, sound, or look. And other common linking verbs include become, then remain, seem, appear, approve. These five, like become, remain, seem, appear, prove, are the considered as not that direct action verb and considered as a linking verb. Okay. Then Colin prefers to distinguish these as others. So mo to mga others, linking verbs from be verb. Since be verb do not have the restriction of connecting the subject to the subject complement. Di ba wala man siya kanina, di ba niingon ko kanina last time na ayo lang ka diri agad sa pattern number 2. Ang subject complement ng maghatag og modification sa subject. Do not be confused sa be verb. So diri sa pattern number 3, dili ta maging confused but the linking verb provides more meaningful insight why we have this complement to the subject. Okay? I hope you get my point. For example, in the first example, the adjective describes a quality of the lake. It appears calm. So the lake calm. So it though it has meaning, but it isn't clear at all. Okay, so it describes more of the subject complement than the subject. The lake appears calm, like mo should kalma, inana siya. Okay, in the second example, the noun phrase, a teacher renames Carolyn, I mean Kara, as what she becomes. Okay, so what she becomes. Similarly, Kara could be said to rename the teacher. Inana lang siya kasayon. Okay, so do not be confused good about anything. Though it is linking verb seems unusual to us because we still need to um, select whether it is like a sense of feeling, a sense of touch, a sense of becoming. But all in all, when you try to um, remember that be verbs can be followed by adverbial instead of subject complement, then the linking verb provides more meaningful insight to the subject complement so that the subject complement will go back to the subject. That's the part where the linking verb appears. Okay, so I hope everyone got it. Uh, we have this sentence pattern for the intransitive verb pattern. So just like earlier, this is the intransitive verb pattern. The fourth sentence pattern from Martha Collins' book Rhetorical Grammar involves two components, a subject and an intransitive verb. Intransitive verb. An intransitive verb is an action verb that requires no complement. In other words, the verb can stand alone. Okay? So, mali ni guys, kadot lang ha. Sabon sa nako kay nako i-edit kamay. Okay, here it is. So the sentence pattern for we have the intransitive verb, and okay, when we talk about intransitive verb, these are the verbs that can stand alone, and it doesn't need a complement. It doesn't need a subject complement or any direct object. Like for example, the camera battery, the subject, died. So wala na siya kasunod like more predicative component or more noun phrase or more adverbial phrase. Wala na siya inana. Kundi mag-end lang siya directly with the use of that verb. And that verb is called intransitive verb. The camera battery died. Ito, naka-record ba ba? Okay. The audiences laugh. Okay? So, ang kabaliktaran ana niya kay katong transitive na kailangan og direct object og subject complement. But in here, please be reminded that the intransitive verb pattern doesn't require no complement. In other words, the verb can stand alone. Okay? So, please note that died and laugh can stand alone. They could certainly be accompanied with modifiers too. For example, the battery could have died suddenly, or audiences could laugh at the moment. So na siya kato ganina, died suddenly, laugh at the moment. But the adverb suddenly and the prepositional phrase at the joke, both functioning as adverbials, modifying the verbs they follow. So therefore, the sentence pattern allows you to construct brief sentences. Okay, then expand upon them by adding details in form of adverbials. So the point in here is asan na to? So the point in here is, for example, no, mag-add ko diri died suddenly, died suddenly maot kay kog agi. Text, for example, suddenly, dako ang S na mali ko. Suddenly, laugh at uh, their joke, my joke. Audiences laugh at my jokes. Okay. So, kung tayo na ana, though mag-add man ta or dili, still, awa ha, kana, mag-add man ta or dili, naadya po yung meaning ang isa ka sentence. The camera battery died. The audiences laugh. Okay? So whether we add it or not, like for example, kani, the, the camera battery died suddenly. So do mag-add tag adjective na mag-describe sa verb na ano died, like suddenly siya na died. Pero still, bisan pagkuha na to ang suddenly, nagyan po siya ano, meaning. Audiences laugh at my jokes. So, bisan pag naa ang my jokes, na siya meaning. Kung wala ang my jokes, naaga po siya meaning. Namo yung mga instances na kuan. For example, unsa man. Example na sentence is koan. Sakit lang. Mm, Teacher Jethro. Sa man? Sa man ha? Throw. Dili, ang throw skip, pwede po man siya nagsuka good. So, pwede siya inana. Pag dance, pwede po magsayaw. Unsa may mga ano ha? Mm, 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 mm. Kanina lang. Teacher Jethro select. Oh, so ano lang. So, my question is, na ba siya meaning or wala? Mura siya, matawag ani class is sentence fragment na ang tawag ani nga naman. Wala man siya meaning, though wala siya nagsugod sa ano, sa katugong mga subordinating conjunction. Pero since wala man ni siya, nasaag man ni siya, maybe pwede na siya a fragment or pwede po na siya erroneous. But kung mabutan tanig Teacher Jethro select his student, okay, to get the book. Ana. So, for example, Teacher Jethro select his student to get the book. Teacher Jethro is a subject. Selects is the verb. His student is the indirect object, and to get the book is the direct object. Okay, or the book is the direct object. So I hope everyone got it. Ayaw sa mo ka-confuse atong mga direct object, indirect object. Just be reminded about the intransitive verb pattern. That intransitive verb pattern doesn't require any. I mean, it can stand alone directly without any help of other, you know, part of speeches. So I will clear all this one and let's go to number 5, sentence pattern number 5, the basic transitive verb pattern. So mo ni siya ang transitive verb pattern. This is the 5th sentence pattern from rhetorical grammar, employs a different kind of verb. Rather than intransitive that makastand alone, this pattern uses transitive verbs, which must be followed by a direct object. So a direct object is the person or thing receiving the action of the verb. So kung unsa ang action sa verb, mao to ang mag-receive, dili ang subject. Okay? Subject ni ka sa dili ni object. Note that transitive verbs can also, of course, be accompanied by modifiers just as intransitive verbs can. Okay, so right now let's explain. Subject is Joey. Joey spoiled his niece Rachel. So number 1, subject is Joey. Transitive verb in here is spoiled. Nga naman, tungod kay, it needs direct object. Kung i-delete mo kunin na to siya, for example, D1, as a drawing. Ana lang, ay mali, kani. Joey spoiled. Unsa may Joey spoiled? Unsa pasabot ana? Like, does it have a meaning? Or is it clear? Kung pasabot nimo spoiled si Joey, dili na napag-construct. Dapat Joey is a spoiled kid. Ana dapat. Pero diri ang spoil is you use the spoil as the verb, not as a subject, as not as a subject complement. So Joey spoiled what? So the spoiled verb in here cannot stand alone. It needs direct object. So it is a transitive verb. So let's put an N in here. Okay, Joey spoiled his niece. Next, our secretary distributes what? What? What's like he distributes to secretary? So our weekly time sheets. So that is the basic function of transitive verb and intransitive verb. Next, let's go with number 6. Sentence pattern number 6, the transitive verb plus two complements. So medyo taas siya. Pero since this is a transitive verb, naa siya'y naa siya'y anang ang kalahian lang gid nilag class is naa siya'y direct object sa kinalasan. Okay? So we are using transitive verb in here that transitive verb is a verb that cannot stand alone and it needs object. So however, in this pattern, the verb is followed by direct object and an indirect object. An indirect object is a noun. So kaning third na to na slot diri an indirect object is a noun or noun phrase or so even it's a clause. I think walay clause siguro pero depende siguro. Wala po ka encounter. Pero mostly we got noun word or noun phrase that assumes an intermediary role in the action being described in a sentence. Or to put this another way, an object that is affected indirectly by the verb. So, ang point ani class is kinsa mag-receive sa object ani. So, bali, natay subject. Muna ang subject nato is the site of Big Ben. But natay transitive verb na gave. Unsa man yung gave? So, transitive siya. Kailangan niya object. So, ang kaning indirect object, mo ni ang kuan. Mo ni ang magdawat sa unsa ihatag. So, the site of the Big Ben gave me. So, kinsa man ang indirect object? Ang indirect object, kinsa magdawat, mag-receive. So, ako. So, that is the indirect object. And the direct object in here is unsa kong gidawat. Goosebumps. Or ice cream. Or love. Inana ba? So, the site of Big Ben is katong wall clock gud dako sa sa America man siguro to. Mm Paris man siguro to. Kalimot ko. The sight of Big Ben gave me goosebumps. Nurse Baggins handed the child, a a turquoise crayon. Turquoise crayon. So muna siya ang point class that the sixth pattern is the transitive verb plus direct object or two complements. The two complements in here is the indirect object complement and direct object complement. Okay, next I know that you understand the sixth pattern. The seventh pattern is the transitive verb plus two complements. So another, but this is a type 2. The seventh sentence pattern of Collins' book again uses a transitive verb which requires a direct object to receive the action as well as an object complement to modify or rename the object. So lahi na siya, object complement na siya. Dili na siya indirect object or direct object but object complement na siya. Na unsa man ang object complement mag rename sa object nato. Okay? Or mag-rename sa um si tawagan na sa object lagi. Okay? So an object complement to modify or rename that object. So Colin compares the sentence pattern to her second, which similarly includes a subject and subject complement. Okay, right now, so let's discuss this part. Subject, my mom. Transitive verb calls. So unsa man? So calls me. Me is the direct object. Then aklats. So aklats. Asa man dapitam. Kinsa may mag-receive sa aklats? Ang subject ba or ang direct object? Still ang direct object. Okay? So ang kalahian lang diriya is kani direct object diriya. Kani manggod kay um they asa ka lang ha. Sa pattern number 6 manggod sa aso pattern number 6 kay kuan. Mm, na ay some asa ka lang ha. Asa to dapita gani? Kani. So though naa sila'y asa to 7 ug 6 na sila kuan similarity, but ang kalahian lang nila diri is gikan sa direct object, then ang direct I mean gikan sa indirect object na mag-receive, direct object ang i-receive. Diri ang direct object kay mag-receive og complement. Okay? So sa seven pattern wala siya indirect object na mag-receive like sa object. Like wala may object diri walay object like my mom calls me unsa man so walay object like for example uh, my mom gave me a crayon. So me is the indirect object, then direct object is the crayon. Tungod kay mo man ang object na gihatag ni ma'am sa ako mo man ang kuan indirect object dito. Pero diri sa pattern number 7, my mom calls me, ang direct object diri mag-receive og object complement, dili ang kuan indirect object. Kay sa 6 pattern man gud ang magdawat sa kuan sa kanang gina-describe is ang indirect object, but the 7 pattern is ang direct object na ang magdawat sa object complement. So my mom calls me a klutz. So a klutz is a noun phrase because a is an article and klutz is a noun, so it will be or an adjective. So an adjective siya mahimo diri kay mag-describe man siya sa object na me sa noun. Next, Darcy considered Jane indifferent. So, ang indifferent diri is an adjective that would describe Jane. Nagi-consider ni Darcy. Na siya. So, I hope everyone got my point. Still, if you have questions, just PM me or PM in our GC. And I hope everything is clear to you about these 1 to 7 sentence patterns so that we can directly proceed to the clauses. Because in clauses, we can easily um, understand the nature and functions of every bit of pieces of words to phrases to objects to verbs, everything because we did this one. Okay, so I will cut off this part, and I hope that you understand this discussion. Thank you so much everyone, and see you in a bit. Ciao.